This season on Gaming Drama, Blizzard continues to face criticism and backlash from the community. The community is scared they won't get their games anymore, and that Blizzard will turn like every other gaming company they've been with before, neglecting them and only thinking about what they want. In today's episode, Blizzard attempts to keep up appearances by nerfing mythical deer so scrubs like Flame can finally do it. While behind the scenes, Blizzard starts crashing from within. Will we survive without our big man Blizzard giving us all our emotional and gaming needs? Will we finally have Warcraft stuff to talk about on this show? Stay tuned and grab your popcorn. No salt, because there's plenty here on our side. Welcome you beautiful bastards to On Cooldown, your weekly WoW news source for trashy adult drama. And by adult, I don't mean that kind of adult, but more adults being dramatic. Okay, that's not what I meant, but I have no idea what I wanted to mean, so let's just get over it. Starting off with what was arguably the most interesting change in WoW, Mythical Deer has received nerfs to a few bosses, Fetid, Mithrax, and Gahun. This is another week where we see nerfs to this specific difficulty tier, and I honestly would like to talk to a few Mythic Raiders and see what they think about this. On one hand, Mythical Deer is not unclearable, clearly. People have downed it, what, almost 2 months ago? The top world guys? Mythic, as far as I can assess it, is not a difficulty that everyone should be able to do, or at the very least not a difficulty that should be made available for a wider range of people. We have been bashing Blizzard for years for dumbing down the game and lowering the skill ceiling of it. Although if you play LFR, you really cannot blame Blizzard, but that's a talk for a future salty video. I don't know, it feels weird for the highest difficulty meant to present the highest level of challenging content to be nerfed. PvE, of course. But if you guys have anything to say about this, bash me all you want in the comment section below. Also,
like and subscribe.
And click the bell thingy. In another note, aside from more Darkshore changes and a new island expedition, not too much has happened for Warcraft, from a game developing perspective. We are all eagerly waiting for 8.1, and I am already getting my Shaman and Priest up to snuff so I can experiment those sweet Shadow Priest changes with my Shaman. Yeah, whatever, this is the script. But talking about scripts, I know how much you guys love it. We are going rogue for the second part of the show because more shit has been splattered on Blizzard and we need to dive in unprotected to see all of it. Was that too much? I don't know. But hey, if this is something you guys prefer, and so far the majority seem to agree, then let me know. But in other words, yeah, let's hit it. A recent article published, I think about 2 days ago on Kotaku, posted by or written by Jason Schreier, clarified a couple of things when it comes to Diablo mainly, but of course this all starts to muddy the waters for Warcraft as well. So I felt compelled by the media and the internet to cover this as well. Plus, there's not really much to talk about WoW anyway for the last couple of days. Essentially, what Jason Schreier mentioned before, I believe, I don't really recall exactly the source, but Blizzard was supposed to have a trailer for Diablo 4 ready at BlizzCon, which they scrapped, and they've so far mentioned that this is unverified news, that they didn't actually have a plan for a video. But of course, when everything goes public, it doesn't mean it's 100% true. So everything that I'm saying right now might not be and probably isn't 100% true, but hey, this is why healthy skepticism keeps journalism alive. So, Diablo 3. As we all know, it didn't have the best reception. I think it sold about 50 million copies, but then it flunked. Of course, we had the real money auction house, Blizzard's attempt to further monetize the game because they probably needed a steady source of income for the next couple of years. Because as we all know, for the majority of the time, Blizzard has been one of the genre-defining game developers, right? Whenever they release the game, they redefine the genre, and they've established standards and bars for other companies to follow. So with this in mind, Blizzard basically was a corporation run by gamers. That's how I felt like in the first few decades of Blizzard's existence. And of course, in the last couple of years, things have started to go down. We've seen Blizzard go a more corporate route. Now we can argue it's Activision's influence or not, but while I was looking into this, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Blizzard, which was Vivendi at the time, essentially bought Activision, but they couldn't be bothered with running it, so they didn't really want to be part of the management team. They just wanted to develop games because Vivendi or Blizzard at the time were majority gamers or game developers, right? So they weren't really interested in the corporate aspect of the situation. So I'm not sure how that translated over the years, and I'm not sure how much this is Activision's fault, but whatever happened, and we have to deal with what it is now. So Diablo 3 had a very poor reception. It was kind of saved with a Reaper of Souls that managed to fix a lot of the shit that the game was going, but Reaper of Souls didn't actually sell as much as Diablo 3, and I think I knew the numbers, but the selling numbers were about like, no, I don't know, really low. So I think 3 million, I'm probably just guessing at this point, but it was way lower than the selling number of Diablo 3 copies, so that didn't really look good for investors and shareholders. And just before Reaper of Souls release, the Team 3, which is so called or so far known by us, the community, Team 3 that worked on Diablo 3, they were already working on the second expansion for Diablo 3, right? Where, as far as the sources claim, sources coming from Blizzard employees and some ex-Blizzard employees that Jason Schreier questioned, of course, this can all be speculations, this can all be former employees being salty or former employees essentially not being a very credible source. But again, this is the information that we have, so judge it and filter it however you want. But apparently, the second expansion for Diablo 3 was supposed to fix a lot of the stuff and really show us, the gamers in the community, what the Team 3 can do with Diablo. The actual people that were working on the second expansion and that were working for Diablo 3 entirely were really confident that this next expansion would, I don't really want to say revive the series, because it's maybe a little bit inaccurate to say that it died, but at least reinstate the image that Diablo 3 is the action RPG that we should play, right? So this is what their opinion was regarding the second expansion, but it was sacked because allegedly the higher ups at Blizzard and Activision, now I'm not sure which, if it's one or the other or both, but since the company itself is called Activision Blizzard, it's very hard and very unfair to differentiate between the two, because at the most you could probably argue that that is Activision Blizzard versus game developers, right? Because at this point, as far as I can see it, and judging from what information is out there, the game developers keep the spirit of Blizzard alive, but the Blizzard management team and the Activision Blizzard management team are basically the corporate side of the whole thing. So that's my take on this, so I might be wrong. But yeah, the second expansion was cancelled before Reaper of Souls was released, so that put a lot of I'm not sure if strain would be the right word, but a lot of developers were kind of like disheartened, right? That worked on it, so like, why would you cancel it before we even see how Reaper of Souls do? Essentially, the higher management thought that Diablo 3 is a flop, it was a fuck up, to use Jason Schreier's words or whatever he used on his article, and they couldn't see Diablo 3 being a worthy investment in the future, and they just essentially instructed the team to work on Diablo 4 back at the time, and I think the project was called Project Hades, which is a new code name. I'm not sure if the Project Hades development started right then, but it was basically the next step in Diablo's development, and Project Hades was supposed to be a Dark Soul-ish type Diablo game. It was supposed to be the new Diablo game. I'm not sure, during the work on the project, they didn't really call it Diablo. They weren't sure if it's going to be Diablo. It was going to be the next RPG that they would release, and it would have Dark Souls-like mechanic, a third-person over-the-shoulder camera, so no longer an isometric camera. So that's what was basically being developed, right? Yeah, so the second expansion got cancelled, then that project was cancelled again, was scrapped, and Blizzard basically publicly stated that usually 50% of their game launches get cancelled. And they've also had a statement that said, and I'm quoting, "Blizzard has been and continues to be a developer-driven company. All of the games we create represent ideas our game developers themselves are passionate about. This is true for Diablo Immortal as it was for Warcraft Orcs and Humans or Overwatch or any game we've ever made. We believe that the best games to make are ones that we developers believe in, that our developers believe in. Quote. So this is what Blizzard publicly stated to, I'm not sure where this was. Again, you can find it all in the Kotaku article, however you fucking pronounce that, whatever. So you can find all of that there, right? So like 50% of the games that they work on usually get cancelled to uphold the Blizzard standards, and they're 100% behind this, and well, I kind of agree, it's what made Blizzard what it is today. They're not releasing half-ass games. They've cancelled Project Titan, they've cancelled StarCraft Ghost, and apparently they had another project that they cancelled called Nomad, and like Riker said in his own video, which you can also check out, Project Nomad, I'm not sure if it was Warcraft Adventures. There was a Warcraft Adventures game set to release prior to World of Warcraft, where you had Thrall go to like a point and click kind of style adventure, getting clues and stuff like that, kind of like the old 80s and 90s games feel, which is really cool. I kind of liked it, but of course it was cancelled. Now again, I come back to what I said previously in the last video, in one of the last videos. They're canceling all of these games because they don't meet their quota, their standards, right? But so far, Diablo Immortal has had the most negative reception in the history of, well, YouTube. It sounds a little bit silly to call it history when, what, we've been having YouTube for 20 years now, or less. No, it's probably less than 20 years, less than 2 decades. Blizzard is younger, YouTube is younger than Blizzard, basically, right? So there's not much history to that. But there's no arguing that Diablo Immortal has had a very negative reception, and they're still going to go with releasing that because, as they kind of said between the lines, but because they didn't really want to state it themselves, Diablo Immortal is mainly for the Chinese market. The Chinese market is a huge market consisted of gamers that mostly play on mobile, and basically the mobile gaming in China is not as picky as us, would be one word, or as scrupulous as us. They can play at a lower frame rate, and they would think the game is fine. What a game that we consider to be an alpha would be considered a full release game there. So there's that essentially. So they're less picky about the quality of their games, which is probably why the gaming market is so widespread there and so accessible to everybody. And initially, Blizzard Immortal was taken through a few steps where it was suggested that it will be released in China only for a couple of months, after which following the release of the rest of the world. And of course they scrapped that and they did a global announcement and a global release, well, a global announcement. We don't have the release yet at BlizzCon, as we all know already. But so that this is just talking about Blizzard and how it's actually developing and how it's actually contradicting its own standards that apparently they mentioned before, because this is how I see it, right? I don't see Diablo Immortal as a Blizzard-worthy game. I see it as an attempt to make another cash cow or cash-grabbing title that can continuously rack in profits so that Blizzard can continuously exist, which is fine. I don't care. If you want to do that, I can see how it is. I can see how the gaming world is developing, and that shouldn't... go for it, man. If you need that to survive as a company, do it. But, you know, don't sacrifice your standards and quality and your image and whatever you've built for 2-3 decades just to follow a trend and not establish it like many other people have already mentioned. But essentially, yeah, the Diablo Team 3 essentially scattered to multiple projects, right? The Josh Mosquera, I believe is pronounced, would be working on the new project called Hades that I mentioned before, and it would be like the Dark Souls type game where it would be a lot more gothic. It would be like a dungeon crawler. This is what was announced. This is what was leaked, actually, not announced. And of course that was cancelled, and after that Josh left Blizzard, and that's probably why we haven't seen it before. Josh Mosquera, if I remember correctly, was the developer that worked a lot with Diablo 3 on consoles. I'm not sure if he started the whole project or if he just directed it, but that's where his name comes from, right? He has refused to comment on this, probably because, well, maybe there's a lot of dirt behind this and he wants to preserve his reputation, but yeah, there's no comment from him. Now, The next Diablo game, after that, Diablo 4 started a new project. Diablo 4's development has started again in 2016 with a new codename Fenris, and I think this has been already confirmed. This is the Diablo 4 game that we will soon get. Now, whatever soon means, seeing as they didn't have anything ready for BlizzCon, is a little bit vague, to say the least. Because as far as sources confirm, Blizzard was intending to have a demo available for BlizzCon. They were working on it since January 2018, as the article states. But during the course of the year, it became less and less likely that the demo will be ready for BlizzCon. So essentially, the word is that there was supposed to be a teaser, at least a teaser available for BlizzCon, and that was the general consensus that was running all throughout the year, with the exception of the last couple of months, during which time Blizzard released that sweet little post on the forum saying that, basically saying that we won't have any Diablo 4 news at BlizzCon. Or however way they phrased it, good things come to those who wait, evil things take a little bit longer. Probably because of that, nobody that was managing the Blizzard panels could confirm that was anything scheduled or scrapped in the last minute, so obviously that's not the case. They probably had, and this is what I understand the situation was, they probably had all the intentions of having a demo ready, or at least a teaser ready for BlizzCon, but they couldn't get that done in time, and of course they didn't want to show a half-assed project. Although at this point, hindsight is 2020, so if they just shown the Diablo 4 logo and saying, yeah, we're gonna have these for you guys, but in the meantime, check Diablo on mobile, right? In hindsight, that might have been a better way to go about with the Diablo panel. Considering Diablo panel was the main fucking panel, man. Jesus. Main panel. Okay, not going to go into that shithole again. This is regarding the speculations that there was supposed to be something at BlizzCon for Diablo 4, but it was scrapped for whatever reason. Now, codename Fenris has been developing since 2016, is supposed to be, and this has been so far leaked and or confirmed by Blizzard employees and by Blizzard management people as well, and Activision management people as well. Whoever had any taken this, they've basically said that they want Diablo 4 to go back to its roots, to be a dark, gross, non-cartoony type game. They didn't want to reinstate the cartoony feel of Diablo 3, the very light-hearted type gameplay with a lot of animations, colorful animations and so on. They want that dark feeling back, which is good news. Oh my god, this is such good news for us fans, and I'm really excited about that part. It will also have some light MMO elements. Now, MMO elements pretty much refer to player hubs, right? Like in Path of Exile, like in Destiny, and the actual content itself sounds to be kind of like Destiny Strikes or WoW instances, where essentially we will probably all gather in a city or a town or a hub or whatever way you want to call it, and from there we're essentially going to start doing our shit in an instance version of the world, right? So if let's say you get a party of people and you want to, you know, either do a quest or an act or however way the game is going to be, that part will be instanced just for you guys, not for the rest of the world. So I'm not sure how this will turn out. I couldn't say I'm a fan of it, because I kind of prefer for the game to go back to its offline roots where I can just play on my own. I don't want it to be a game where essentially I need the help of others. This was never Diablo. I never felt like this game can only be completed with a party of friends. That sucks. That's not how the Diablo community has been built, and I'm pretty sure that the majority of Diablo fans can agree with this. The game needs to be something that empowers you as a player, right? Not something that you need to... Well, you can get friends to increase the difficulty of the game and make the game more challenging and get your friends to do that, but online play is not something that I like for Diablo. But then again, I mean, I'm playing Diablo 3, so who knows? Maybe they can pull it off right. But we can debate that decision being good for us all we want. So also, there's been a lot of talk, and Alan Adam basically said this as well, and they've said it during the announcement as well, that a lot of people like to play mobile now. A lot of people are playing mobile. I'm playing mobile, that's fine, right? And a lot of Blizzard employees seem to be fan of the Pokemon Go game, which brings us to our Warcraft part of the show. Right, Pokemon Go. Blizzard employees like Pokemon Go, and apparently the Growmash statue at the Blizzard HQ is essentially a Pokemon gym. Ooh. That basically inspired the mobile team, because of course we know that there are multiple IPs working on mobile versions of their games. are working on a Warcraft game similar to Pokemon Go. It seems like this leak is pretty accurate. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, at this point, Blizzard can pretty much retract anything that's been leaked. Judging how their PR is at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if they scrap a lot of the shit that we currently hear, just to make sure that their image is still preserved, right? But apparently this is what the Warcraft devs are working on when it comes to mobile gaming, a Pokemon Go type game. I'm not sure what to think of this. So initially when I saw the Diablo Immortal, I was like, wow, cool, Diablo on phone. I wonder how that is, right? Initially, I'll be honest, it seemed like a game that I wanted to play, but that was just because I was a 12-year-old being excited, like seeing a Christmas present in the morning, right? So I didn't actually realize what that meant. So I'm not really sure how to take the Warcraft Pokemon game, how to actually take it, right? But then again, veteran game designers at Blizzard have been working historically for very long projects, 10 years, decades-long projects, and Wyatt Chang was part of those employees, and essentially they wanted to work on shorter type games, which I agree. The current gaming industry is not the kind of industry that you can run with IPs that take, what, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years to develop. Like we had StarCraft 2 and Diablo 3, right? StarCraft 2 development started in 2003, so it took about 7 years. So we cannot have that anymore. I get that, but having them all go on mobile, I'm not sure. And also, of course, during this whole debacle, Morhaime left the company, and a lot of employees were shaken about this because he has been known as the anti-CEO of the company, right? So he was more aimed towards pleasing gamers, towards pleasing employees. He really wanted his employees to be happy. He really wanted to deliver really cool games, and this is a game developer. This is how Blizzard was all of these years. Blizzard was a company run by game developers that just wanted cool games, right? They weren't really oriented towards profits. Of course, this changed in the last couple of years. This might be one of the reasons why Morhaime left as well. Another source mentions, and I'm not sure exactly where I've seen, read, or heard this, but I know this is the case. At one point, whenever the Diablo 3 second expansion was supposed to be released, or at least to be put into development, Morhaime essentially mentioned that we should get that expansion for free, right? Because of what happened with Diablo 3, because of what happened with the Real Money Action House and all the bad publicity, Mike just wanted us to have the second expansion for free, so that, you know, this was Blizzard's way of redeeming themselves, right? Of repairing a mistake, which I personally agree. This is how Final Fantasy XIV was redeemed, if I remember correctly. They've rethanked their game, they've changed a lot of people and did all of the changes, all of the shit, and I believe everything was implemented for free for everybody, right? They didn't have to pay for additional content or additional stuff. At that time, back I don't know, years ago, I really cannot remember. But that's how I thought that Blizzard can recover a part of their positive image. But of course that didn't happen, right? Because the second expansion was cancelled, and not only that, to keep us satisfied over the years, they had to release constant changes. They released the Necromancer, which is a downloadable content that you have to pay for. I really see this not being Mike's decision. I really see Mike opposing this kind of a decision, judging from the way he's perceived by his company and by his employees, and judging how we know him as well. So this might have contributed to him leaving Blizzard, right? So this is basically what was happening during all these years and in the last couple of months. This is what has been disclosed to the public. Again, this is all coming from Kotaku article that Jason Schreier wrote. He has his own sources. I've read a lot of stuff on Kotaku. I'm not sure how much of this is accurate or how much this will remain confirmed in the near future. You can go read it for yourself. There's a lot more stuff there that you will probably want to check. This is pretty much it. This is pretty much what happens with Blizzard. We're gonna have so far a Warcraft Pokemon game. I would have gone as much as Battle Pets, right? They already have the Battle Pets system. If that's kind of how the mobile game will be, that's fine, I suppose. It kind of makes the franchise trail more and more to a more lighthearted type of game, which is not something that I personally like. That's not how the games were from the beginning. They've started becoming more lighthearted as their years passed, and from funny little quotes that you would get from your Warcraft 2 units by clicking them multiple times, we actually got the humor to be actually put into the game and make it kind of like a Disney game. But of course, I'm just salty, but this is what happens. So thank you guys for checking the video. Thank you for bearing with my insane unscripted part of the video, which is I really want to make as little editing to this as possible. So I'm not gonna cut out as much stuff from it. I'm probably just gonna cut out the and the, you know, brain farts. But other than that, I want it to be as real and as human as possible, because I want you guys to know my honest opinion. And if you do have your own opinion, and you obviously do because you're human, I really want to know. I really want to know what you guys think, because I might be interpreting this from my own subjective point of view. I really want to know what the community as a whole is thinking, because historically, Reddit and YouTube comments and all of that, usually they're not the best source of credible information. But I really want to start an honest conversation with you guys. You can come in our Discord chat, we can chat there. You can leave a comment in the section below to let me know what you think. I'm really curious about what you think about the new Blizzard direction. And thank you for tuning in, guys. We're gonna have daily videos every time as far as we're alive. Check out our channel next week. We're gonna have more videos coming your way, and especially with 8.1 right on the doorstep, we're gonna cover that as well. So have a lovely day, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for supporting us, and see you next time. Peace.